Did I know I was going through the menopause? Definitely not. I actually just thought something was seriously wrong with me. I'm Madhu, I'm 57 years old. I am a new author who has written a book about menopause, working through menopause. So what were my symptoms? My symptoms were, I had 50% of the then 34 symptoms that were sort of going around. But I didn't know it was to do with the menopause at all because I was never diagnosed with that. The symptoms that I had was the first small signs that I began to have was my skin changing, my nails changing. And I actually thought it was something that I was lacking in. But with the way my skin was changing, it was changing in a way that the structure of my face was changing. I just didn't feel happy with it. I was never a vain person. But I was having a lot of dry skin. It was patchy. And then there'd be times when it would be tough, dark skin on my forehead, on my chin, and it just felt like tough leather. And then there would be times where the skin would actually just decide to erupt in blotches, sore blotches, and then have, from my neck upwards, it was just like this burning sensation from my neck towards my chin, towards my cheek. And it would actually happen any time, any place without thinking about the situation that I was in. If I was in a meeting or at work, going out, anything like that, it was that started to make me realise that something wasn't right. I then got diagnosed as being celiac at the age of 47. No conversation about menopause at that time. But what was happening was that I was vomiting, I was having diarrhea, and it would be on a regular basis. And that started to obviously have an impact when I was working, before going to work. And then it was my periods were always regular during that time. So I didn't even have any inkling if it was to do with the menopause. And then it was when my period started fluctuating, was when I started to have some hot flushes. But because I was having my periods, I didn't think that it was to do with the menopause. I started to go to the GP, but then the hot flushes sort of calmed down, and then it was the insomnia and the night sweats, which was the major issue for me. I didn't realise having insomnia and night sweats, not just once a week or once a month. It was basically 7 days, every single day, every single night. But I had to carry on going to work, being the mother, being the wife, carrying on with everything that I needed to do, because the symptoms that I had they were invisible, so no one really knew that impact that was having on me. And then it would be the joint aches, the aches and pains in the strain in my neck, the migraines were becoming regular. And then whilst I was working, a job that I had been doing should be second nature to me. So from being like this independent woman, loved what she did, I was going to meetings where I was feeling some sort of anxiousness, but at that time I didn't know that was anxiety. It was just having this fear inside of me of thinking that I really don't want to go to these. So from being that independent, confident woman, I just turned into someone that needed reassurance. And I changed into someone that I just didn't like. So how did I manage my menopause symptoms? I actually didn't, because I didn't accept it. I was in my 40s, mid-40s. I was still young. That shouldn't be me going through that. So I found that very difficult, because for me, in my 40s, I was in my prime. My daughters were older, which meant that I could actually spend a lot of time with me and my husband, building our relationship up again, going out dating. It was, doing all of that. But it was like the complete reverse literally happened with our relationship, with the girls. That should have been the best time of my life, and it just actually wasn't, which I think I was angry, the fact that I had to go through that. And it was, why was I the chosen one? Because no one actually ever spoke about it with people that I was surrounded by. And it took me a good few years to actually realised that menopause was going to control me, and I had to stop menopause controlling me. And how was I going to do that? So I had to think about the effects of it was going to have on me and my family. My daughter came to me and basically said that, do you realise, I know you're not you. You wake up sad and you go to bed. I think what hurts is just the fact that I'm their mother, and for my child to tell me that they can see that change. When you're the parent, you're the adult, you should be protecting them, not them coming in and telling you. I find that very hard. So after having that conversation, how did I manage it? I think that was the shake-up that I actually needed, hearing it from my child that I'm going through that. So what I then decided to do was, I think I had a battle of my mental health being impacted. And what I've learned in my journey is that because I ignored my mental health when I had estrogen in my body, because we can cope with being happy, with being sad, and being able to multitask, in just carrying on as what we women are used to actually doing. When the estrogen was leaving, obviously it was a different story for me. When the perimenopause symptoms were happening, I then had to realise, as I said, that what was important in my life. I could walk away from my marriage, have my children in a broken home environment, but what was it deep down that I really wanted? And I had to think hard as to what it was, what I wanted, and what was it that I had to actually do. And what I had to do was actually go to my GP, and actually, no matter how many years I had been going to her for, it was telling them that I needed help. And the reason I didn't want to say that I needed help, because I wouldn't be able to get up from the floor, because I'd just be so upset. And what I've learned is the fact that you can't just ignore your symptoms. You need to know it. You need to know what's happening to your body, understand it, check every single area of your body in making sure that everything's, fine. But if you're noticing signals, you're noticing signs, you need to do something about it. Even if you don't know what it is, just go to your GP and ask for help or ask their advice. So that's what I actually started to do. I made sure that I saw one particular GP, so I wasn't repeating myself and forgetting anything that I had to say, or because that GP would actually know my story and would be able to support me in a better way. But what I noticed about a GP is they're not going to really support you as a whole, as an individual. So I had to work on the rest of it, i.e. my mental health. My reproductive system was coming to an end, and something was taken away from me without my consent, and I didn't want to let go. So I was advised by my GP to take herbal medication. So I did do that. I took black cohosh for the hot flushes. I also took vitamin D, which we all have to take. So I also took ginkgo biloba for brain function, and I took magnesium and zinc, which actually really helped me to sleep. But what happened was I did decide to go for HRT, because I think I was just too far into everything else working for me regarding the herbal medication, that it was the HRT that made that impact for me to transition through the menopause. But one thing about the HRT is that, it's not that one fix that's going to work for everything. It's actually, you have to work at it as an individual, by doing things yourself, i.e. changing your lifestyle, changing your diet, and also, I don't like using the word exercise, because I found it very rigid in its telling me that I need to do exercise. But what I've learned and how I've learned what I do is actually just making sure that I'm moving every single day. So what I'm really upset about, because I found out recently that 51% of ethnic minority women do not feel represented when it comes with a menopause conversation. And it just angers me, the fact that we live in the UK, we should all be represented as one. We talk about diversity and inclusion, and where are those women that are from diverse backgrounds talking menopause? Because you see a lot of people talking about it, but they're not from Asian backgrounds or from black communities and whatever, and that's what we need. We need real women talking about menopause, and so other women can actually relate to it. So, you know, I am Hindu Punjabi, and my parents was first generation that came here. I'm the youngest from 5 siblings, and my parents came to the UK with their principles, with their values, and that's how we've been brought up. Principles and values are, we don't talk about women's health, we don't talk about mental health, we don't name, shame or embarrass the family name, and we keep things behind closed doors. Regarding ethnicity in the UK and regarding, talking about, women's health generally, we need to have research of Asian women in the UK. So how do I feel now? You know what, I feel fantastic. And you know, I just love the fact that I had a really tough menopause journey, and people might see me today and say, oh, you know, she mustn't have had it that bad, but believe me, I had it really bad. I was at rock bottom. I just saw no light at the end of the tunnel. I was in a very dark place. And, but now it's like, I never ever thought that I would ever see that light at the end of the tunnel, and literally I'm sitting here today talking about menopause, and I just feel great, the fact that I can talk about it. I'm here now making sure that no other woman will go through what I actually go through. That's why I now mentor, support women, families, employers, to making sure that everyone is making change, not that the woman has to make the change, it's making sure society makes that change.